Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've got a really fascinating stack of sources in front of us. We're looking at a set of readings from Tarot by High C, specifically their Astrology of the Day insights, and we're pairing that with a really detailed narrative analysis they did called Load-Bearing Hearts.
And our mission today is very specific. We're zooming in on the implications of the Venus in Capricorn transit.
Right, which runs from the very end of 2025 into January 2026.
Exactly. And this isn't just about, cosmic energy in the abstract. It's about how that energy, at least according to these sources, is demanding that that you overhaul the entire architecture of your life.
It's a complete shift, isn't it? And it's happening right over the new year, which feels so critical.
It couldn't be more critical. The whole idea is to figure out how we apply this disciplined, results-oriented mindset that we usually save for our career to the parts of life we usually just let be chaotic, love and money. The entire transit from December 24th to January 17th is demanding three things: standards, structure, and substance.
I love that focus. So let's ground this for a second. For anyone who knows the basics, why does Venus, the planet of love, of value, suddenly get so corporate and serious when it hits Capricorn?
That is the key technical piece, really. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of discipline, of time, of mastery.
Of building things.
Exactly, building things that endure. So when Venus moves into this sign, our whole standard for what we value just completely changes. We stop valuing the fleeting, the temporary thing.
The emotionally volatile.
Yes, and we start valuing what's tangible, what's secure, and most importantly, what's reliable.
So it's an immediate transformation then?
It is. Love stops being just a feeling. It demands a practical commitment. Desire gets a purpose. Your creativity suddenly needs a structure to flow through.
So for you, the learner, this isn't about chasing romantic fireworks.
Not at all. It's a time to ask yourself, what structure in my life, be it financial or relational, what actually deserves my long-term serious commitment? What needs a sturdy foundation if it's going to last?
Okay, let's translate that to daily life. If we're all operating under this very structured energy, what does affection even look like? Because pop culture tells us it's spontaneous gifts, grand gestures.
Right, dramatic confessions. And the source suggests those things actually become less important, maybe even a bit suspicious during this transit.
Really?
Yeah. Affection, according to this, shows up through consistency. Just simple consistency. Reliability becomes the ultimate way to show you care.
So think of it like this.
Right.
The person who reliably texts back, who shows up 5 minutes early.
Who does what they said they would do. That steady, almost boring follow-through that is the highest form of flattery right now. Flakiness completely loses its romantic charm.
That's a great point. I wonder if that means showing up on time for a date is the new grand gesture.
It really is. Reliability is the ultimate flex.
But doesn't demanding that kind of consistency create a lot of pressure? I mean, are we supposed to turn into taskmasters in our relationships?
No, it's not about pressure, it's about definition. And this leads right into what the narrative source calls the boundary imperative.
Okay.
If you think about it, defining expectations is the opposite of control. It's an act of respect. It lets both people understand the limits, the capacity of the relationship.
So it's about honesty.
Honesty and self-respect going both ways. It's a time to notice where you might be performing to earn love instead of just being met with a symmetrical effort.
That idea, symmetry, and refusing to perform for affection, that leads us perfectly into the narrative source, Load-Bearing Hearts.
It really does.
This story gives us this phenomenal human case study, the character Elena Ward. She basically embodies this whole disciplined approach.
She's an architect, which is perfect. And she learned the hard way that standards aren't a constraint, they're a liberation.
And she applied that to her personal life.
The same clear-eyed assessment she used for construction projects. She saw that people so often mistake chaos for passion or, improvisation for freedom. But to her, freedom was knowing the structure would hold.
There's a really memorable detail in the source about that philosophy.
There is. She preferred buildings to people, she said, because buildings did not pretend. They stood because, and this is the key, someone had decided that endurance was worth the effort.
Wow.
She just wanted her love life to operate with that same structural integrity.
That is such a sharp, almost defensive perspective. It's like she's refusing the messiness that most of us just accept as part of the deal.
Precisely. She refused that bargain of performing devotion as if it were a currency. She would not dilute herself just to earn affection.
So every project, every partnership needed clarity.
Symmetry.
Yes. If something couldn't justify why it should endure, it just didn't deserve her emotional investment. And that wasn't about being cold. It was a really valuable filtering system.
And then Marcus Hale arrives, and he gets this. He understands it implicitly.
He does. And the sources make a big point that he didn't show up with a spectacle. No flash mob, no volatile confessions. He just arrived with simple consistency.
He followed through on small things. He listened, but not to extract some dramatic emotional response. He listened to understand her principle.
Her principle, not her feelings.
Exactly. The why behind her choices. That's the essence of this Capricornian connection. Their first real conversation was less like flirting and more like, I don't know, due diligence.
I remember that line. Elena says she was not interested in potential, only proof.
Right. She's not asking him to guess her needs. She states them. And he meets her exactly there. He says they're speaking the same language. It's partnership as a collaboration, stripped of all the guesswork and fantasy.
It sounds incredibly efficient, but doesn't that efficiency kind of kill the spark? When you analyze romance so clinically, do the sources suggest there's any room left for passion when you're so focused on load-bearing walls?
That's a valid challenge, and the sources actually confront it head-on. They don't define this relationship as anti-romantic. They see it as a deeper, more disciplined kind of romance.
So love becomes an act of construction.
An act of construction. Desire is sharpened into intention. And romance becomes, as they put it, disciplined, stripped of fantasy, and restored to function.
They didn't dissolve into one another.
No, none of that blurring of boundaries that leads to codependency. They aligned. Their affection was in the daily, deliberate choices to maintain the structure. It wasn't advertised in big, volatile moments.
And that structure, the sources say, is what enables a deeper connection.
Because they're focused on building a shared future, not just enjoying a fleeting present.
And that architectural analogy is just perfect. Wow. The boundaries weren't barriers, they were load-bearing walls.
That analogy is central to this whole deep dive. A load-bearing wall is what lets the entire structure stand. It's what lets you build higher.
So protection and structure actually increase the relationship's capacity.
To handle stress, to hold more weight over time, every expectation was named, examined, and accepted freely. It creates this foundation of mutual accountability.
Okay, let's turn the lens a little. Away from partnership and onto the other critical area you mentioned, finance. Because this structured anti-wishful thinking approach isn't just for love. Section 3 of the source material connects it directly to financial discipline.
Absolutely. And this is where that Capricorn energy really, really shines. During this transit, the sources suggest we become much more aware of where our money is leaking out.
And it's usually from emotional spending or wishful thinking.
That's the common denominator. In love or in finance, it's that reliance on hope instead of a real strategy. We want results, not just temporary comfort.
Emotional spending, the kind that promises instant relief but leaves you with buyer's remorse. It's the financial equivalent of that flaky partner.
That's the perfect analogy. It's exciting for a moment, but the cost just erodes your foundation.
And in the story, Elena reflects on that, doesn't she?
She does. She realizes that emotional spending had once promised relief but delivered only erosion. The sources are really clear on this. Wishful thinking is not just a state of mind. It's expensive.
It costs dollars, obviously, but it also costs compounding returns, future opportunities.
And time. It costs time. We can apply that discipline of the load-bearing wall here, too. When you have a solid structure, a budget, you know exactly where your resources are going.
You replace the rush of the impulse buy with the steady satisfaction of seeing a savings account grow.
That's the consistency showing up right there in your bank balance.
So if wishful thinking is expensive and causes erosion, the sources frame discipline as the opposite. I think they link it to generosity, which is an interesting word choice.
It is, but it makes sense. The sources suggest discipline is a profound form of generosity because it's an investment that reliably pays off. They conclude that discipline was generous, it returned more than it demanded.
I like that.
When you structure your effort, financial, time, whatever, you massively increase the yield. It ensures the future you get is the one you actually designed, not just one you stumbled into.
Okay, but here's where we have to address the pushback. And approach this objective, this structured in love and money. It's got to draw skepticism.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources mention it directly, right? The whispers, where was the mystery? Where was the thrill?
Right. This kind of objectivity is so often misinterpreted as emotional distance. But the sources frame it differently. Why dismiss thrill? Because thrill is temporary. And comfort without a foundation is a huge liability.
Elena wasn't chasing passion.
No, she was chasing results, permanence, dignity. She wanted her choices to accumulate into something real. Thrill is reactive, structure is proactive. And during this transit, the energy favors building something that can't be easily taken away.
Which brings us to the source's final, really powerful concept, which I think wraps this all up. It's about reframing self-esteem.
Yes, the idea that self-esteem is not just an internal sensation, it's a physical reality.
That is a huge shift from the usual self-help talk, which is all about feeling confident first. This is confidence is the result of what you've built.
Exactly. It connects the boundaries, the consistency, the financial discipline. It connects it all into a visible, verifiable outcome.
So your self-esteem is visible in what you build, what you sustain.
And what you refuse to abandon. If you look at your life, your managed budget, your firm boundaries, your dedicated work schedule, those are the physical structures that prove your self-respect. They are the tangible evidence.
The ultimate goal for Elena wasn't to be adored.
No. Adoration is passive. It depends on someone else's feelings. She just needed to be met, which requires effort and symmetry from the other person.
In choosing substance over spectacle, structure over illusion.
She didn't just find a partner. She found harmony, a true alignment between her values and her life's physical architecture.
That's a powerful and extremely concrete takeaway. So this deep dive into Venus and Capricorn and the story of Elena and Marcus really shows that high standards are protective, that consistency is the truest form of affection, and that disciplined effort yields lasting, visible results in finance and in love. It's about building a life that's designed to stand the test of time.
And that leads us to a final thought for you to mull over as this transit begins. We've talked about how Elena defined self-esteem as a physical reality, something you could see in what she built.
Right. So if you apply that very structured metric to your own life right now, what evidence of your self-esteem is currently standing as a load-bearing wall, something that endures because of careful construction? And what structure, what part might still be relying purely on wishful thinking to stay upright?
That's a tough question.
It is, but that's the fundamental choice this structured energy is demanding you make.